I know in addition to WASH, you also have a strong interest and commitment to environmental and conservation issues here in Malawi, which is known for its wildlife and for its plants and animals. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges facing Malawi because of climate change right now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because this thing is really affecting Malawi. Currently, when we look at first is the electricity that Malawi is depending upon, it's hydro, and you'll find that the electricity is expensive. So as an alternative, people have resorted into fetching firewood, fetching burning charcoal, of which is detrimental to the conservation that we have. And here in Malawi, I think this is a problem because we find, yes, there are policies there that people shouldn't burn charcoal, but on the other hand, because people can't afford to use electricity throughout the day in terms of their household activities. So this makes it, in turn, the forest is the one that is suffering because people can't afford to have electricity throughout. And the other thing is there is frequent blackouts, of which these blackouts, they are really affecting people because and in turn it is also affecting the conservation, which is the forest. People have to have alternatives so that they cook at least something for themselves. Then they have to use the fire. And as the government and some NGOs, they are really working tirelessly on that, but still maybe because of the political interest that our politicians have, it's really affecting the forest. And let me also date way back in 1990, a period between 1992 and 94, when the people, Malawi was turning into a multi-party state. That's the time also when most forestry canopies were affected because people thought multipartism is somebody should be free to do anything. So people resorted to cut down trees, maybe opening new gardens in restricted areas, in other areas. So in some, maybe you have witnessed that in some hills they are bare just because of that. But because people had to open new gardens in hilly places, now the soil is gone. They have returned back to where they were cultivating. So also that had an impact on the forest, or on the conservation side, and that's really something that has affected Malawi. And for current, yes, with some sensitization, some mitigations, I've seen some people, most canopies coming back. There is a lot of regeneration, but as you are aware, indigenous trees takes long to grow. So maybe in the future generation will have something to smile on. But for this generation, I think we still have to fight hard so that we bring back the forest reserves that were there. I remember within the 1994 period, 1994 and 1996 period, People also, some encroached the national parks to try to cultivate there, but still, because of the policies that are there, and they were made to return to their old farming lands.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just driving through, because we've done a lot of moving through the country, and you can see, Sam mentioned regeneration. I wouldn't do a regenerative school interview without talking a little bit about regeneration, but you can actually see this happening. And I think in addition to a lot of the deforestation that was done by Malawians themselves at different periods, there was a massive influx of refugees from Mozambique during their civil war, probably a million more. How many refugees were here during that period? Do you have any idea?
There were more than 2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, because they were in different camps, right there from the central region up to the southern region, because it's where Mozambique is. And most of the people that are along the border fled into Malawi, and it really affected Malawi, because at that time they had to also use firewood and charcoal as a way of cooking and other household. Even the construction of the houses, the temporary houses that they were living, they had to use some poles to construct the houses, because at that time for other organizations to come in, it took them time, and there were a few tents available, so people resorted into cutting trees for construction of houses.
Yeah, and I think you could see that some of the areas we rode through were just adjacent to the Mozambican border on the west side of the country, and just some of the big areas that must have been very deforested in that period. Obviously, because people had no other resources. You can see, literally, we would drive for hours and see the amount of reforestation that was happening on a gigantic scale. It was really impressive. I didn't even know about this program, and then just driving, you could see how much work was going into it. But there is a national reforestation scheme. I think the African Union as a whole has agreed to do reforestation on around 100 million hectares of land, and within that, Malawi has promised to do 3 million hectares of reforestation, and the plan is to have about 2 million of those hectares reforested simply by the end of 2020. It looks like they're well on their way to doing that, because as I said, we could drive for hours and see this massive amount of reforestation happening across different parts of the country. We saw some on the first day I was here, and we were driving again yesterday and saw even more of it in some of the mountain ranges near the national parks. What does that translate to at the local level, Sam? How do you see people being engaged in that effort?
Yeah, it's a national program that Malawi government is running with funding from AU, but yes, it's achieving its results. First thing that the government did was to put in place what we call community-based natural resources management committees that are raising some seedlings, and out of these seedlings they distribute to the communities around, and the communities have to plant the trees between the period of November to March as a program, because that's the time when we have rains here in Malawi. So people have to plant at least some seedlings that they raise until the trees are fully grown. And on the other hand, as the government, they have a policy of safeguarding some species of trees. Even if the tree is on your house, but you can't cut it without government coming in to say this is property of government. So there are some species that are protected, so that once those species grow fully grown, they have an impact first to the soil and to other living creatures like animals and other things. Because with this program as Malawi, yes, we are striving to achieve it by the end of this 2020.
One of the things that I find really interesting about Malawi is that it has been a stable, peaceful country since independence. And you've had countries, Mozambique is about 60% of your border. It surrounds you on 3 sides, and it went through a massive civil war, and yet Malawi accepted refugees and remained stable and peaceful throughout that entire time. What do you attribute that to? How has Malawi maintained this kind of stability despite all the challenges it faces on its own, and then the challenges its neighbors face?
Yeah, Malawi, since its attainment of the multipartism, which we call democracy dispensation, Malawi is open up in terms of dialogue, and we have seen other countries, because they don't open for dialogue, that's why they resort into fighting. But as for Malawi, I think we haven't fought, and if there are elections, once a party has lost, they admit their loss and work with the government. This year, 2020, we witnessed one of the a milestone for Malawi, whereby in 2019, in May, we had the elections. Elections, the incumbent president won, but it went into courts, into the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court made its ruling on the 3rd February this year to say there should be a rerun. And as a peaceful country, everybody accepted it, even the ruling government, even the opposition accepted it. And in this case, the court gave us a mandate of a time frame of 150 days, of which we should have a fresh elections, especially the presidential elections. And in this case, if it was in other countries, there could be some chaos because of the ruling, but in Malawi, it has been peaceful. That makes Malawi maybe unique to other countries, because hadn't been that it was the other countries, we could see people being killed because of the ruling that was made on 3rd February this year. But in this case, it shows how mature Malawians are in terms of politics, and I attribute this to maybe our background, because in our background we were made to fear during the one-party state. But yes, I know with the multipartism or the democracy that is there, people couldn't understand it at first, but now we are mature, because we are talking of close to 25, if not 30 years old in multi-party type of situation. So there is tolerance amongst leaders, and there is at least some opening up in terms of the discussions. So I think we Malawians is something that we can celebrate on as an achievement, because yes, I know in Mozambique there were elections there last year. People started fighting, and there were some refugees. I remember to have met some refugees in one part of Malawi, because the opposition, that's Renamo, couldn't admit the results of the elections. which is different in Malawi. So in Kenya, we had also the same scenario, and some people were killed, of which Malawi, don't think, yes, there were demonstrations that were being held in protest of the election results, but when we look at people who were killed, I don't think some of them they were killed because maybe they went on stealing, breaking other people's property. Then the police had to intervene. But in terms of that, maybe coming close to the democracy, no, I don't think so. Yeah, so as for Malawians, we have something to celebrate on, because we are politically mature.
Yeah, I mean, Sam points out almost an identical situation happened in Kenya in 2018, where the election was annulled by the top court, and it destabilized the country for almost 8 months. It was a very destabilizing situation for a very long time for many people, and lots of violence. It was happening again and again as they tried to sort out that situation. So Malawi did have a very different outcome. Well, just one last question, Sam. I know you've got 3 young daughters in their 20s, late teens, finishing school, like they're doing a lot of great things, but so you've got a lot invested in the future of the country as you look at your children. What are some things that make you feel optimistic about the future of Malawi?
Yeah, about the future of Malawi, I think there's still room for improvement in terms of establishing youth into some of the activities that Malawi is doing, because looking at how the youth are engaged, that's another area that I can say it was an area of concern, because most of the youth, they are engaged during the demonstrations that happens, so that maybe the little that they have paid, they have to destroy other people's property. But if the government could, or other organization could take up a step further to train these youths into how they can handle situations, and maybe particularly on peace building, it will be something ideal for Malawian youths, so that they become a productive youth in the future. And also they should, as government, should establish, yes, I know they have established some technical colleges whereby some youths go to learn, but still building capacity of somebody needs a lot of need diversification, and this, if the youth were engaged in some trainings that mainly targeting them into the politics, it could be, or peace building, that would be ideal, because that will avoid them being engaged in something that they don't know. I'm saying they don't know because politics is for the fully grown people, and you'll find that the youth, they are just being used to or engaged in politics which they don't know how to run.
Well, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate it. It's been good talking with you. It's been good visiting with you.
Thanks.
So, thanks for your time this morning for this interview. So
yeah, you're welcome. I think I will offer you a citizen of Malawi.
It would be an exciting place to be. It really is a unique country in Africa. I've visited pretty much all of the countries in the southern part of Africa, and it's just a very peaceful, very gentle country. It's just got a very remarkable story, and it's very remarkable feeling driving through the country. So I'm glad to have had the chance to see so much of it with you. Thanks everybody for listening to us today, and thanks for following. the Regenerative School. We'll see you again soon.